My name is Jill Coyle, and welcome to another episode of No One Dies from Divorce, where we talk the nitty-gritty aspects of divorce and help each other come through this not only surviving, but thriving. I'm a divorce attorney, and I'm interviewing other experts and people just like you who are going through or have been through a divorce, so you can have the latest and greatest information on all things before, during, and after divorce. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of No One Dies from Divorce. Today, this is our celebrity episode. I have an amazing guest with me, Gabi Jones in the house.
Thanks,
Welcome, Gabi. We're so excited because this is our celebrity episode where we talk all things salacious and gossip about a celebrity couple who are going through or have been through a divorce. And today we are kicking off with Bill and Melinda Gates because you can't get more salacious than the divorce of the richest person in the world.
But I'm not sure how salacious it actually is.
I was just going to say this because as much as I want it to be like scandal, and I want it to be like, hey, what happened in this? It's really not.
They're just too good. Well, maybe.
There's a little bit of question about the reasoning behind the divorce, but it wasn't as, we're going to get some dirt on this as I really wanted it.
Yeah, like their divorce took, a matter of months versus some other celebrities who take years and years and years.
And they're fighting, and there's like lots of little things. And what you can get from the Bill and Melinda Gates divorce in basically a summary is that when you have so much money that you don't know what to do with the money, that you're able to figure things out.
That's a good point. Like at some point you get to a point of wealth where it just makes it easier.
Is there a difference between $8 billion and $9 billion? And, there's a point where you're like, no.
To you and me, no. There's no difference there.
So, anyways, let me tell you a little bit about my guest, Gabi Jones. First of all, she is one of my lovely attorneys that works for me at CoilLaw. But she was actually raised in Salt Lake City, Cottonwood Heights, Utah. And she completed her undergraduate education at UVU, which is Utah Valley University. During her undergrad, Gabi started UVU's first, what is it? Anarchist.
Yeah, I started an anarchist club. I was the president of an anarchist club, and there were about 6 of us in the club.
I'm like so intrigued. Gabi is like one of my favorites. She is I just love it. What you stand for, I just love. She interned for a Utah senator, completed a study abroad program in Nice, France. Man, that we have a lot in common like that. And she volunteered for the small claims court as mediator. She also met her husband and got married at the tender age of 20.
I got married the day before my 20th birthday.
Oh my gosh, you were such a baby.
I know.
You were such a baby. After much convincing from her political science professors, Gabi decided to attend law school. You went to law school in Eugene, Oregon.
Yes, I did. I went to the University of Oregon. Go Ducks.
Go Ducks. My mother-in-law and father-in-law would absolutely adore you. They live in Eugene, and they are big Duck fans. I'm big Coug. Go Cougs. So during law school, Gabi interned for the American Civil Liberties Association of Utah. She externed for the Honorable Judge Ann Aiken of the U.S. District Court of Oregon and gave birth to her son, Atticus. He's adorable, by the way. I love him. And after law school, Gabi moved back to Utah to be closer to family and to serve the people of her home state. She began her legal career providing low-cost legal services to low-income and at-risk populations all over the state of Utah. And then she joined us.
And then I sold out.
Look at you. Now she's just helping lots and lots of people that need help. And, again, we're a high litigation firm. So
I feel like I serve a much wider range of clients actually now.
Yeah. You definitely learn too. Like Gabi is, she does a lot of my garden at Litem work with me. She does a lot of my juvenile work. I've been helping her and training her to do that, to really take over that, that I guess leaf of our tree of what we do at CoilLaw, and she's just amazing at it. But she's also very empathetic and passionate advocate for her clients. I know that to be true. You also have a twin brother.
I do. I have a twin brother.
And you love Harry Potter and Jane Austen. Who doesn't?
Yeah. But I'm like one of those millennials where it's like probably 50% of my personality.
Okay. Like you can identify with like what club the Harry Potter you're in.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm a Slytherin and my rug in my house is a snake. So.
That's awesome. I can't even. And you also enjoy weekly sessions of Dungeons and Dragons with your family.
Yes, I do.
That's actually exciting.
I just did it last night, actually.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome, Gabi. Thank you for taking the time. We researched this and we are just excited to talk to you about Bill and Melinda Gates.
I feel like we're a bit late, right? Because their divorce was just finalized.
I know.
But we have more information now than we did before.
Yeah.
So
we wanted to record this a little bit earlier, but like we said, that we didn't really anticipate that their divorce was going to go through as fast as it did, because they did not have a prenup. They didn't have a separation agreement at the time that they announced their divorce in May, but it was just a few short months until they finalized it. Literally, it was finalized on August 2nd, 2021.
yeah.
And a little bit about like the Bill and Melinda Gates. Like, what was your impression, or your, like, when you heard and the announcement came, like, what were your thoughts about that?
When I heard that they were getting divorced, I think it was just what's going to happen to the foundation, right?
You were more concerned about that because they're like the biggest philanthropists in the world. They help so many people with their, and it's called the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for a reason.
Right.
That was really, really concerning. I get it. I was like, oh man, what's going to happen to humanity now?
I know. What are we going to do?
You know, what's funny is that my biggest thing is I was sad. You know, as a divorce attorney, like, things don't really surprise me anymore. Like divorce, like celebrity divorces, it's like a dime a dozen, right? You're like, okay, another pretty couple just broke up. It's all good. But with Bill and Melinda Gates, they've been married for so many years and they've done so much good in the world. I was a little heartbroken. I felt like, you know, maybe like our American royalty, you know, we don't have royalty here, so we kind of find figures that we can fit that mold. So I kind of was a little bit like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah. I mean, they're not celebrities like movie stars, but they're very high profile.
Yes.
Their name is on everything.
Yes.
And, yeah. And they kind of flow, even though their name's on everything and they contribute money to so many causes, they're kind of low profile. So when, at least for me, in my circles, so when they did announce their divorce, it was like, oh, what's even been going on with these guys?
I know. And they did it over, you know, the Twitter or whatever, Instagram. They said, you know, this is what they said. After a great deal of thought and a lot of work on our relationship, we have made the decision to end our marriage. The Microsoft co-founder shared May 3rd. That was
so they announced it May 3rd.
They said, over the last 27 years, we have raised 3 incredible children, which their youngest is 18. So it's like they held out just till they didn't have to.
Right. Is that what you were thinking too? Because she just turned 18.
Yeah. And they built a foundation that works all over the world to enable all people to lead healthy, productive lives, which I absolutely agree with. But one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is this term gray divorce. And this is something that is, I think, becoming more prevalent in recent years, where people are getting divorced after 50.
Yeah.
And they're very long-term, long marriages. I would say a long marriage would be considered maybe 12 years and up. But, I mean, we're seeing, especially in my career, I mean, I'm seeing more and more 20, 25, 30 plus year marriages, and then they're coming to me for a divorce. And it's interesting.
I think it's really interesting. In Utah, I don't think the phenomenon is as big as all over the United States, but in Utah, we've definitely seen, at least at our firm, a lot of gray divorces. And what's so interesting to me is it's usually, in my experience, initiated by the wife. And so I read a bunch of studies while I was getting ready for today, and a lot of like researchers kind of connect gray divorce to feminism and the fact that women are not only entering the marketplace, but we're doing so well in the marketplace now, right? Like women on average are getting more education than men now. And so a lot of researchers are actually linking it to freedom for women, right? Increased right for women also leads to women not wanting to be in these marriages anymore.
Right. And from my understanding and what I've been seeing is like, it's not like they just woke up today and they're like, okay, 27 years was great and I hate today and therefore I want a divorce.
No.
Like usually it's like I wanted a divorce on year one and I just didn't have the guts or I didn't have the financial security or
I wanted to wait for the kids to get older.
Yep. And so we've been seeing that it's been this like, oh, we've had a horrible marriage. We've never, we've gone through years of marriage counseling and we're just not getting better. And I'm now, in my late 50s thinking, do I have to now be retired with this person that I dislike very much for the next 30 years?
Do I have to
wait
at home
for you to
every
die?
day? Yes. Yes. Well, I don't think it's necessarily horrible marriages, but people are just kind of like, oh, if this marriage doesn't serve me, then why would I stay?
Yeah.
Right? And like you said, I think there's a huge financial component in that women are like, I can just go out and get a job and provide for myself. I don't need this.
Or they've built enough wealth that they know that when they split it, at the end of the day, that they're going to be taken care of anyways, or, alimony is in that state and therefore they're going to get alimony. So there's a lot of factors in it. I always say like divorcing between 50 and 65 is one of the hardest financial decisions you're going to have to make.
Yes.
Because you accumulate the most wealth in your life in the last 10 years of you working. A lot of times that's because you're making the most you've ever made.
You have less debt.
You're able to contribute more to, different retirements, invest more strategically and stuff like that. So there's a lot of reasons behind it. So let's talk a little bit about Bill and Melinda Gates and some of their interesting facts.
Okay.
I thought that these are interesting. So Bill Gates, started Microsoft in the early 80s. He didn't start dating Melinda until 1987.
I know, that actually surprised me that they didn't start dating until after Microsoft was already started.
And a lot of people don't recognize that they didn't even get married. They didn't get married until 1994.
I know, they dated for almost 10 years, right?
Yeah. And
like 7.
And in 1994, Microsoft was already $1 billion company. So what is even more mind-blowing for the divorce attorney in me, they didn't sign a prenup. I mean, there's a lot of reasons behind that. Like, Bill had never been married before.
Well, and I wonder how socially acceptable prenups were in the early 90s. I know, like, in recent years, they've taken off.
$1 billion company, I would assume that every legal lawyer that worked for Microsoft was screaming at him that you should get a prenup. Because trust me, divorcing somebody with a business like this is not easy, and a prenuptial agreement could have protected and made that easy. Now, I don't know. And at the time that they got married, nobody could, I guess, well, maybe they did know that Microsoft in 2021 would be worth as much as it is now.
I don't think so.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was already worth $1 billion.
That's true, but that happened very, very quickly.
Yes.
Like, nothing really happened for Microsoft for a while, and then when it did happen, it all happened very quickly. But you're right. It is surprising that there isn't a prenup. I kind of think it's a little romantic. Maybe dumb, but like I just imagine them as these cute little nerds who decided to get married and then they decided to do so much good for the world. So
I agree. I agree. The hopeless romantic in me thinks, yeah, he loved her and wanted to show, and she supported him from 1987 while he was building that, company. And maybe that was another reason why. But when they got married, he was already the richest man in the United States.
Yeah, that's...
But then when we get to the resolution of their divorce, they don't have a prenup, and the resolution and outcome of it surprises me as well.
Yes, it is shocking.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And again, I think it's because at the end of the day, I think Bill and Melinda Gates are very good people. I really do.
Well,
I think.
Well. Let's get into the salaciousness for just a second,
Yes.
because I'm a little skeptical.
I know. You can be a good person in the fact that you have intent to help humanity and do good things, but you can make very, very stupid decisions in your life. And I absolutely agree that this is where the salacious comes. So go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so when the couple first announced that they're getting divorced in early May, right? It broke on all of the news stations.
Yep.
And a few of the larger reporting agencies like the New York Times reported that it may have had to do with Bill Gates' relationship with Epstein. Apparently, they had a friendship. They met. The New York Times reported that Bill Gates had met with Epstein many times since 2011, and that may have been part of the reason that Melinda Gates decided to move forward with the divorce when she did. However, Bill Gates has always denied having a business relationship with them, and it's really unclear what their relationship actually was.
And interesting enough, I just finished a book about Jeffrey Epstein, and it was from the point of the view of the lawyer who represented the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And they talked a little bit about this, and it was interesting because they found no direct correlation that Bill Gates had any of the content of the illegal stuff with Jeffrey Epstein, that Jeffrey Epstein continually reached out to Bill to try to get money, because it was, as we know, Epstein made money by getting rich people to give him money. It's the most asinine relationship. I mean, I'm a good person. Give me money, and somehow I'll make you more money. So that was Jeffrey Epstein's whole ploy,
right?
And people did, and
it's not like they were friends. It was more that he wanted money.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. But the other thing that's interesting is not just their relationship, because I think everyone's like, oh, it's salacious. Let's try and connect everyone we can to Jeffrey Epstein. And there are some people where there's much clearer connections. But what's more interesting about Bill Gates is that on May 16th, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal both reported stories that some people in the orbit around Bill Gates, I believe it was employees that worked for the foundation, reported some questionable behavior, specifically that he had pursued women who worked for him at Microsoft and the Gates Foundation.
And one of the things that I thought, okay, so when this story broke, it was on a Monday morning. Like the busiest news cycle, it was like, this is going to happen at this time. And then they had this joint statement already prepared. And then that they had already been working on a separation agreement prior to the time he had stepped down from Microsoft just a few months. So I remember when this announcement was made as a divorce attorney, I was like, something's going to come out. Like, this doesn't make sense the way that they did it. If it was just going to be like they were tired of each other, there wasn't really any backstory to it.
I see.
They would have done it on a Friday afternoon. It would have been like, okay, this is what we're doing. And we've already, created this. But from the way they did it, it looked like Melinda, basically was like, I'm done.
Well, and it had looked like she'd been meeting with lawyers for a while before
years.
The announcement came out.
Yeah. And him stepping down from Microsoft and that was interesting, and he claims that he was stepping down to spend more time with family. And now we're like, no, you weren't, because Melinda was over here wanting a divorce from you. It was all just a little bit of a question of what was really going on.
Yeah, but great PR, right? I mean, they have a great PR firm.
Because they've really actually, if you try to go and research this there is not much credible evidence to support some of these.
Even the Wall Street Journal article doesn't have very much in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have names. It doesn't have details. It's very, very vague.
And they have done whatever they can to really erase any connection he's had with Epstein, which, again, at the end of the day, I think that Bill is probably just a nerd who gets a lot of attention for what he does. And because of that, he's dumb.
Well, he's probably just a human being with a lot of money. And I find that human beings with a lot of money make sometimes very stupid decisions.
Yes.
And they have the money to make very stupid decisions, right?
Right. Well, and it just goes to, like, if we compare this to the Jeff Bezos, matter, when we're looking at, again, another long-term divorce or long-term marriage, and they have lots of money, and, they're both doing a lot of good, and, well, she's doing a lot of good, and all of a sudden...
He's doing a lot of good, too.
Sure.
We can get into that another time.
I'm like, if we're going to compare Jeff Bezos to Bill Gates, he's going to win.
I don't think there's a comparison.
Okay,
really.
okay. But at the end of the day, it seems like these women maybe have, they finally get to a point where, you know what, I'm worth more than this. Like, there's a lot to say between the thought of staying together for public persona and for, humanitarian efforts, and then recognizing that, I'm worth more than what this person is.
Well, I'm worth more, or maybe this just isn't working for me, right? In the United States, I think in Western European culture in general, we really push this idea of monogamy, and maybe, just maybe, as we get farther along and as women get more rights and more freedom, we're realizing that monogamy is not necessarily where it's at all the time for all people.
Yeah.
And so you get in these relationships when you're really young, and then they go on for 30 years. And at the end of that 30 years, you're a completely different person, right? Like, I am not the same person now that I was when I got married at the age of 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that if you're going to enter into a marriage and you're going to make commitments to each other, and then maybe being in that kind of relationship doesn't work for you, your spouse should be okay with that.
Yes, absolutely.
It should be an open conversation.
I'm not saying anything different. If you make a commitment to someone, you make a commitment to someone. Yes. So, if the stories about Bill Gates are true, shame on him.
Right.
And
I just think, honestly, the way that it's come down and the way I've looked at it, good for Melinda Gates. Because guess what? She's worthy of happiness. She's worthy of love. She's worthy of commitment. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're worth billions. If that wasn't what if he wasn't able to show her, what her worth was in non-monetary terms, then good for her.
Well, we'll probably just never really know what happened. And
but she's going to go be a badass in her own right. Like, she's now got all this money. So I wanted to say, like, they're worth about $124 billion. But a lot of their wealth has been donated or committed to their foundation. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's where most of everybody was like, oh, what's going to happen? Because if the foundation is called the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And from everything that we've researched about the foundation now is that they are co-presidents of the board, and like every initiative that goes through the foundation went through both of them. Now, whether they, talk to each other and really had to like get both each other's votes, but they both had a very prevalent.
They have a very small board of trustees
Yes.
for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and nonprofits are kind of run by the board of trustees.
Yes.
And so when you have a small board, if your board doesn't get along, your nonprofit's not going to work.
Right.
And so not only did they get a divorce, but then one of the other well-known trustees, Warren Buffett, stepped down after they announced their divorce in July. So everyone was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Warren Buffett's leaving.
Yeah.
Is everyone just going to leave? But they announced when the divorce was finalized on August 2nd that they reached an interesting agreement. I think they announced it before the divorce was finalized. About the 2-year trial period?
No, that was actually, so what happened is that they actually, when they announced their divorce, they came out and said jointly that they were committed to continuing the efforts of the Bill and Melinda Gates, and that they actually committed that they would work together to ensure that their initiatives continued to move forward.
Right.
That's what they committed. And so everybody, you know, was like, oh, okay, that's good, because Bill and Melinda Gates do so much for everything.
Yes.
I mean, everything. They have so much money that they're able to put forward to really benefit things. I mean,
and they do international work. I mean, they do work with medicine, with science, with housing. Yeah. I know Melinda Gates feels really strongly about a lot of women's issues. I mean, like I said, their names are on everything.
Relief, they do so much for different things. And whether you agree with what they use their money for or not, when you have that kind of power in giving that much money to something, it is powerful.
Right.
I mean, they really do have enough money to affect change, which, you know, doesn't happen a lot.
No, we don't see that very much. And I think the thing that people were concerned about is, okay, they sunk a lot of their personal fortune into this foundation. And when you see celebrities getting divorced, it is just a fight. So, well, what's going to happen not only to the running of the company, but to all of this money that's been going in?
And one of the things, so an interesting fact, I found this. The Bill and Melinda in their will to their kids have only committed $10 million per kid.
Only,
right. And a lot of people actually think that that's kind of laughable. Like, why don't you want to take care of your kids? Which you and I are sitting here like, I'll take $10 million and I'll be just fine with that. But I wanted to make a point about that, is that $10 million puts you in a whole different league than the rest of the world. Second of all, they have the name Gates. They are going to be just fine. People are going to pay them to be on their board of directors just for the fact that they have a gate on their board of directors. So trust me, their kids are going to be okay, even with only a $10 million commitment for them.
I know. And what's happening to the rest in their wills?
It's all going to the foundation.
Yeah.
The rest of it is going to the foundation, and with the commitment that it will be used in perpetual use of their mission and their initiatives.
Well, so I'm guessing now that they're divorced, their wills are going to change.
I would assume so.
Because that's what typically happens after you get a divorce. Or if you do get a divorce, you should change your will.
Yes.
Because you might not want your money going to your ex-spouse anymore.
Yes. So with the announcement on August 2nd that they are officially divorced, that's when it came out to actually say that the foundation is only going to be ran on a 2-year trial period for them to test out this co-op of being able to operate the foundation together.
Yeah, so it's a 2-year trial period, and then they're adding to the number of trustees that run the board. So it's not going to be so small anymore. The power will be divided into more people. What I found was really interesting was not only are they doing a 2-year trial period, but if the 2-year trial period doesn't work, Melinda's going to receive personal resources or money from Bill Gates to continue her philanthropic work.
Right.
So I think that was probably a big selling point for Melinda Gates.
To settle.
Was that he was like, look, I don't want our divorce to affect what you're doing. I understand that what you're doing is very important. So if we can't make this foundation work, I'm still going to give you money to pursue that. Now, the details aren't really known, but when I read that, I was so surprised, right? Because he is pledging his personal money to his ex-wife so that she can continue to do the good work she's doing.
And I would assume that that was just part of the settlement that they've been working on the last 2 years. It was like, hey, I'm willing to try to work with you because they know that the powerful of the Bill and Melinda Gates with more money, more pledges gives the ability to make more change. But if it's not going to work because they just can't stand each other, or, you know, things change, like she gets married again.
Like, what if one of them gets remarried?
And then all of a sudden they're annoyed at each other. So I think that that's really good. And if you then go back to the Jeff Bezos, you know, and his wife's example, they didn't have this big
Philanthropic. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I mess up that word, but they didn't have this big foundation, and now his wife has gone and created her own, and now is like a storm is coming of
it's so
how much
interesting.
she's donating for schools and universities. It's been pretty powerful and fun to listen to what she's doing. So I love that. And I love that she has the ability to do that if she doesn't feel like she's being able to be represented equally in the foundation anymore. The other thing is that so 2-year trial, and then we'll see.
But I think it's interesting that even though it's still kind of up in the air, they actually have put more money into the foundation. So after they announced their divorce, a few news outlets have reported that they put an additional $15 million into the endowment. Right. So I don't know, that to me shows that they're really, really committed to making this work. And then I know that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has actually signed some contracts with a few startups who are finding different ways to fight COVID-19 as well. And that a big one was just announced on September 9th, so a month after the divorce. So it seems like things are going to move forward. It might be rocky and they might have to figure it out, but it seems like it might actually work out, and that everyone's worst fears that the foundation's going to collapse are not going to come true.
Yeah. So what I want to go back to is that we were talking a little bit about how there wasn't a prenup. So as a divorce attorney, we all assumed, and when we were doing this prior to August 2nd, that Melinda would get half of everything that was earned during the marriage, which, at the time they got married, it was worth $1 billion. Now he's worth about $152 million. So I was thinking that Melinda Gates was going to get around $76 billion. And what we have now has been confirmed is technically Bill's net worth is still around $132 billion, and Melinda's is an estimated $6 billion.
So this is post-divorce.
Yes.
How is this determined?
So
how is someone's net worth determined?
By assets.
You just add up the assets.
So this is what I think happened. And again, we don't know all of the facts behind this, and we haven't actually seen the separation agreement, so I can't technically tell you exactly. But this is what I think happened. Bill and Melinda recognized that she needed money to live. And whether she takes $1 billion or $6 billion, she will be fine. She gets also, half of the assets of the houses and stuff like that. But $6 billion is a lot of money. She'll never even have to touch that money. She'll be able to live off of the residuals of that. I think what was more important is the foundation. And so I think what her negotiation was is I'm going to take personally lower, but I want you to commit more to the foundation.
Yeah.
Which meant that more of their money went into the foundation with this expectation that, hey, we're going to work it together. And if we don't, I'm going to take half that money and I get to do whatever I want with it. And I think that that's what she wanted.
I think so too.
She didn't need more money personally for herself because she knew that the foundation was her most important thing.
Well, so this reminds me of something else I wanted to talk about. I think you definitely see what's important to Melinda Gates throughout this divorce because of the grounds that they chose for their divorce, right? All of this came out, all of the salacious things we were talking about Bill Gates maybe having an affair or two, or who knows how many, and his involvement with Epstein. But in their divorce, they pled no fault grounds.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people have had a lot of questions about this. So when you get a divorce, you have to put a reason why. And in a lot of states, you can do a no-fault ground, which just means the marriage isn't working. We've tried. We just can't make it work. We don't want to be married anymore. This
is actually the majority of states in the United States because fault divorce is actually only in, I think, 8 or 9 divorces. 8 to 9 states.
I'm guessing mostly the South. But yeah, and then you can also claim a fault ground, right? So the most famous fault ground, it probably is adultery. And this comes from like hundreds and hundreds of years ago when women had no rights, no property rights. Women themselves were considered property and you just couldn't get a divorce, right? Unless you had very specific reasons. One was adultery, one was infertility. There were a few others.
Right.
But then as we've modernized, we've gotten rid of those. So I think Melinda Gates could have claimed if they have this evidence that there was adultery, she could have claimed adultery.
Right.
She could have done that, but she didn't. And
I don't know, though, because, again, it would go to Washington being a fault state. And I don't know if Washington is a fault state.
Washington has fault grounds.
Oh.
I watched a YouTube video about this before we came, and Washington has fault grounds that you can choose from. I think a lot like Utah.
Yeah.
So Utah has fault grounds and Utah has no fault grounds.
Yeah. So by doing that, exactly. And a lot of times in settlements, too, even if there was grounds for fault, you put no fault because nobody wants in their divorce decree that there was, some reason blaming the other person.
Right.
And in fact, when you're in the middle of negotiations and mediation and through your attorneys, it doesn't help the situation. But I can tell you, if they had to go to court and they had to fight about this because Bill was being unreasonable or ridiculous, I'm sure Melinda's attorneys would have been like all up in there and saying, yes, we're going to claim fault because, he's so it sometimes can be used as a tool to really negotiate in good faith and get better settlements as well.
Because divorce decrees are public record. So,
except unless you're famous and can get it sealed for whatever reason.
I know.
Because unfortunately, we can't get the documents to this divorce. I really was hoping that we would be able to get the settlement agreement just so that we can see exactly. Because a lot of what we're talking about today is we're just theorizing it. We're just thinking that this is probably what happened. But again, we can't say for sure. And that's what's so interesting and why I love this specific topic, because I feel like Melinda, she really wanted to make sure she could focus on what was most important to her. First of all, her kids. She didn't want this to be blown out. They didn't want to drag this out as a big, nasty divorce. She wanted to protect her kids, which she had her birthday this week. She turned 57, I think.
She turned 57.
And her 18-year-old, wrote a cute Instagram about how much she loved her and that she's such an essence of hope. And she used that word hope. And I loved that because I thought, wow, when I think of Melinda Gates, that's exactly what I think. Like what they're doing, even for the COVID-19 vaccine and what the money they put into that research and getting it so that it can, come to fruition and hopefully get us over this pandemic has been just really, really awe-inspiring. And I feel like Bill and Melinda Gates and what they've been doing with their initiatives through the foundation has given hope. And, you would hope, that people with this kind of money recognize their power in making change. I've read an interesting book about a million drops in a million buckets. And what it talks about is that philanthropy and the power of the fact that if you put too many drops in too many buckets, it doesn't fill the bucket up. But if we were to take one bucket and everybody put a drop in it, the change we could make. And I think COVID-19 was a really good example because, whatever you have on vaccines, whatever, controversial you want to make of it, this vaccine has been in the works to be developed for the last several years, but it has never gotten the steam of fundraising to be able to do what it needed to do to get to market like it did when COVID hit. When COVID hit, with all the money that went directly into developing this vaccine, we were able to get a vaccine in less than a year.
And that's something I think the Gates Foundation should really receive credit for. Is a lot of times people don't donate to scientific causes because they're not sexy, they're not glamorous. I mean, like you said, the base, right, the beginning for the COVID-19 vaccine was in development for a long time.
Yeah.
And it just couldn't get off the ground because everyone's like, well, why? Right? We're not going to. But that's something that the Gates Foundation has done consistently, is they give money to causes that they're like, we see a need for that. We don't see anyone else filling that need. We have so much money.
Yep.
Have some. Try it. Yeah. See what you can do.
And another example of this is remember the ice bucket challenge with ALS? That challenge raised more money for ALS than it had ever received in the last 100 years.
Oh,
and
I
they
didn't know
were
that.
able to make more groundbreaking maneuvers in medicine because of that specific, because they were able to raise so much money. And, I guess just going off of the fact that this month is Child Cancer Month, and when you look at the fact that child cancer development for drugs and for cures and ways to help children has been so slow. Again, I just wanted to talk about the difference of being able to join one cause makes grounds, and that's what Bill and Melinda Gates can do. They won't just donate $1 million.
Right.
They will donate so much money that allows real change, and that's why I do at the end of the day hope that they can work together with their foundation, because again, it allows the pool of resources to first of all grow more money, but then it also allows for greater change.
Yeah. And I think they need to be given a lot of credit for prioritizing their foundation, because that's not easy when you're going through a divorce, especially a long divorce where heaven knows what happened. To set aside all of your personal feelings and all of the pain that you're going through and to say, look, we have so many people that are depending on us. We need to at least try.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. And so, through this divorce, like we said, it might not be the sexiest or the most entertaining of divorces, but at the end of the day, it is a very important one because, again, Bill and Melinda Gates are looked at as the go-to for really say the word again.
Philanthropic.
Thank you.
Right?
So you're so good at that.
Oh, yeah.
Causes.
I practiced a lot before today.
And I should have practiced as well, but they really are making changes, and they're doing so much good, and we just want them to continue to do that because they'll have more money than, and maybe Elon Musk will join that train and start a foundation.
If you want to get into this, we can, but if you want to talk about scientific achievements, you have to talk about Jeffrey Bezos and Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So, but we can save that for another day.
And that's the thing is that they are these, entrepreneurs that have created and developed companies that are making more money than they'll ever know how to spend.
Yeah.
And they are doing waves with scientific development and, and this is what you want to see. When you have this ability to make this much money, make change. And thank you, Bill and Melinda Gates, for doing that,
Yeah.
And doing it in a way that really is helping people. Because, like I said, they're never going to be able to spend this much money.
That's true. That's true.
Ever.
Also, quick shout out to Jimmy Carter, who does the same thing.
Yes.
He's also just one of my favorite people, so I felt like he needed a shout out on your podcast.
And there's a lot of people, Warren Buffett, same way.
Yeah.
And I read a lot about these people as entrepreneurs and what they're doing to make change. And, it's inspiring because with my foundation, it's a small, glimpse of what they're doing. But I know that I get real fulfillment out of using my successes and my ability to help other people. And that's what my husband and I are doing. So,
well, that's great because you make yourself vulnerable doing that, right? Not only are you spending your money, but you're also opening yourself up. And so, I don't know, for anyone who wants to contribute to a cause and to start a foundation and to really put their life and soul into it, I think you deserve some kudos for that, whether it's $156 billion or not.
Right. So anyways, but that's Bill and Melinda Gates' divorce. Just very interesting. It will be interesting to watch in the next 2 years to see what happens.
It'll be so interesting to see what happens in 2 years.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to do an update in 2 years. See if it worked out for them.
Do we want it to crash and burn or do we want it to be successful?
I don't know. It's so hard because I look at the foundation as kind of like a co-parenting agreement, a parenting plan.
Yeah.
And we just see those fall apart all the time. Because, like we said, the other person gets married again or hasn't, and
that's true. I guess the real call won't be the next 2 years. It'll be when one of them gets remarried.
And then the other person gets frustrated by it. So we'll see.
Yep.
Thanks for joining me, Gabi.
Thanks for having me on,
This
Jill.
is so fun. This is just another episode of our No One Dies from Divorce Celebrity Edition. What can we learn from Bill and Melinda Gates? Thanks for doing so much good. Keep it up. Till next time. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, follow, and share. I'd love to hear your questions and feedback. You can contact me at community@jillcoil.com. See you next time. I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. Any advice given on the podcast is general and shall not be construed as legal advice.